The Tyson's Gift podcast was created to promote the normalization of metaphysical and spiritual topics, particularly the reality that we are all eternal souls having an earthly experience. Obviously, this will cover a wide berth of topics such as animal communication, mediumship, the paranormal, past life regression, energy healing, you name it. Brandon hopes to entertain his audience with fascinating discussions with experts, as well as everyday folks who have metaphysical experiences and knowledge to share. The intention is to help make esoteric topics fun, relatable, and credible for audiences of all backgrounds. And here is your host of the Tyson's Gift podcast, Brandon Wainwright.
Hi, everybody. I've been wanting to do that for weeks now, and I finally thought about it in advance. Pepper's not the host. I'm the host. No, Pepper, are you the host? Okay. Welcome to the Tyson's Gift podcast on WLTK-DB Talk Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Wainwright, and we got a great show for you tonight. A friend of mine who is a master of many modalities in the esoteric arts, Mike Jones, is here with us, and I'm excited to have him here, and we're going to discuss a number of different topics. A man with a lot of heart and an interesting background, considering what he does for his living and his occupation at this point. So, okay, as far as Pepper's concerned, I'm going to go ahead and pass her to my daughter and let her take leave of this place. If you read my book, Tyson's Gift, How an 8-Pound Canine Became a Man's Greatest Spiritual Guide, well, then you know why Pepper is integral to the show. So, okay. You ready to go? I love you. Okay. All right. So, why don't we go ahead and bring Mike on in here, Mike Jones.
Hello.
Hey, Mike. My good friend. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate you opening up space for me.
Oh yeah, of course. So we got a few guys and gals checking in on our comments. We've got Dan Loosemore. Thanks for being here, Dan. Keith Fletcher and Courtney Lopez, our loyal listener, is here each week. I didn't, she didn't miss me kissing Pepper. So yeah, I know it's a little corny, but hey, that's what the show's about. It's about the love, baby, especially love for canines, right? So, so Mike comes to us. I'm gonna read you a little spiel. I mean, it's short and sweet, but a little bit about Mike. Mike is a life and spiritual coach. Mike is an Air Force veteran who specializes in various modalities, including mind-body healing, tantric practices, spiritual divination, mediumship and channeling, shamanism, and he is also a practitioner of magic. Haven't had one of those on here yet, Mike, so that'll be an interesting thing to get into. Mike provides for his clients with intuitive and divine guidance to best address their goals and needs. Mike can be found on Instagram at high_counsel_healing and on TikTok at Young Sweet Shiva, which I guess it's not on there, but we'll give you a chance to name those off later in the show. But again, it is high_counsel_healing on Instagram or Young Sweet Shiva on TikTok. All right, Mike, welcome. So you look at you. You're a master of multiple modalities in the esoteric arts, but that's not always what you were, right? You Air Force. It's kind of like me being a cop. It's a completely different type of background, huh?
Yes. I was in the Air Force for, I want to say, 8 years. I was a aircraft technician or mechanic and electrician for aircraft by trade.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Appreciate it. I've worked on the AC-130s, which are the gunships. I've worked on, for anybody who's played Call of Duty, when you call in the airstrike, you're literally calling in the AC-130. Uh, I've worked on CV-22s, which is a prop rotor. So it has three different blades. You'll see them kind of rotate and go up, and they can take off vertically or take off down the flight line, just like a helicopter or like an airplane. I've also worked on the E-4B, which is like right under Air Force One,
Mm.
which is a analog plane that you can literally run the country from in the sky in regard to that. But I was in for 8 years, and I've traveled to a few different places, and it's been a beautiful experience to have because it expands you in many different ways. I get to work with people in many different forms and shapes from different backgrounds and cultures, so it's like that expanded me in so many different ways with how I communicate with people, leadership skills, and my ability to even just trust myself showing up in that space.
I bet. I mean, that's you got a lot of responsibility when you're working on aircraft like that. And but very left brain too, right? Very physical, very 3D, very right. Instant consequences.
Very much so, very much so. Like for somebody who was pursuing the spiritual, like my own spiritual journey, it was, you could say it conflicted, but I wouldn't even say it conflicted. It really was a pushing to me. How would I describe it? It would be better described as: are you still going to show up as yourself, even though you have this job and experience?
Hmm.
So it's like I noticed even throughout my career, like the people that often weren't gotten along with or saw as the weakest link often got paired with, and they were the people who had often been given up on, but I was able to communicate and work with them and actually show them, because it's like in the Air Force we say airmen, in the Army they say troops. Of course, your Marines for Marines, and they have different terms for the tiers of what you refer to on the enlisted side. And I know I had this viewpoint. I was like, there's no such thing as a bad airman. There's only airmen you haven't found the skill set of.
Hmm. Courtney says thank you for your service. Some.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hmm. So even being in a very in the military and in service, war situations, lots of responsibility, lots of very physical, very right now. Definitely not an environment where people are getting down on their knees and channeling. Um, uh, you still found a calling that required you to really tap into your spirit and to connect with other people's spirit. So that's
Yes.
awesome. And I think I think any effective person in really any line of work, but especially in the military or law enforcement, or things where it is kind of cut and dry. It's important to have that, to maintain that connection to spirit and the connection to where that interpersonal thing. But it's not just a matter of physical interpersonal relations. It's you're also tapping into their spirit, and they're tapping into yours, and being open to that makes you a more effective airman.
Yes. Very much so. Very much so.
Well, I congratulate you on that. That's for sure. Uh, you would have made a great cop too. I can tell you that. I know a good one when I see one. um,
It's interesting because I was partly, I would say, I call him my spiritual pops. He was a cop too. So like he would always tell me, he was like, if you don't stop to think, when will you ever think to stop?
yeah.
So he instilled so much knowledge in me. So I could understand why you would even
Yeah, well,
experience or
you well
even
you
say that.
have the thing is, you have the qualities that would make a good officer in terms of being able to take care of things, but you also have that human connection going for you, and that heart and that soul, which would help you be effective dealing with people and making the right decisions in situations too. So, but the thing, okay, so let's go again. So you've got mind body healing, tantric practices, spiritual divination, mediumship, channeling, shamanism, and practitioner of magic. So we're going to get into those a little bit, but you grew up in Tennessee, correct?
So born in Memphis, I was raised in Houston. So I was in Memphis till I was 5. Both my mother and father are from Memphis. And then my mom and I, we moved out to Florida, stayed there for 1 year, Daytona Beach area, and then I spent majority of my time growing up in Houston from then on there till when I enlisted, which was in 2014. So I was pretty much in Houston from 1999 up into 2014.
Okay. So yeah, you're a Houstoner. But in terms of your spiritual practices in your upbringing, you were raised in a strict Southern Baptist family, right?
Yes, and I wouldn't say necessarily strict, because Baptist is a little bit more relaxed, but still culturally raised Baptist. We don't, we're not supposed to shy outside of that realm in regards
Okay.
to how we practice and faith. And I was brought up like my elders were in the church, all the sisters. Over the sisters, my grandmother was one of the sisters that were over there with the grandmothers with a nice, beautiful hat and the flower on it. And
Mm.
it like the graveyard that's behind the church, like a lot of my family and elders are buried in it. So it's like the church is called Mount Pisgah in East Tennessee. So it's like I religiously was brought up like Sunday Bible school, church camp in the summer, um, going to Bible study before actually being ushered into church. So my uncle, he played the drums. So it was like it was
It
something
was,
I was immersed in.
yeah, it was a big deal. It was something that,
Mhm.
yeah, it wasn't just something that you can. I mean, your whole family was integrated in it, and
Yes.
therefore so were you. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Derek and Jackie Fryer. I was a guest on Chat with Charlie this morning, and so they saw me, and now they're showing up here to check out our show. So thank you. I appreciate you being here. Um, so okay, so when as far you're a spiritual guy, yeah,
Yes.
would you say?
Uh,
When I would
I think.
say so, based on what I know of you. So when you were did you find spiritual fulfillment in that as well?
There was always a seeking in regard to that space. I always wanted to understand it, but I didn't fit in it, if that made sense. Like I understood and I received different. I looked at life differently, but
Yeah. No, I get.
I honored and respected the space. And I was like, I'd be in my Bible, I would read, I would understand and learn scripture. I was, like ushered into the church choir too at the same time at certain times. Like, not that you were asked, sometimes you were told, but
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. But obviously your family members, they got spiritual fulfillment and peace out of it. It sounds like.
yes, very much so, very much so.
Um,
And there's still a lot of fulfillment that I'm learning today. Like as far as even understanding and appreciating it today, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah. Well, all there's many paths to the kingdom of God, and so you just got to find the one that works for you, right? So now you at some point you found a different path. Can you
Yes.
talk about wait a minute. Hey, we're on this station every okay. She's okay. I have to read this. It's a hey, we're on this station every Thursday night because we're raising the vibration. It's like right. Thanks, Courtney. She came up with that little ditty in the car today. She says, "Okay, I don't want to get sidetracked though. So, so what precipitated you finding a path that was more appropriate for you?"
Okay. I want to say what changed my life and what really started me on this path I remember I just got out of basic training. I was in tech school, and my soul was hungry and thirsty, like for connection and guidance, and to really be able to do what we would refer to as the Lord's work, or to walk with Christ in that space. And I remember I said a prayer and I said, God, show me who you are beyond indoctrination. Show me who you are beyond Christianity. Show me who you are beyond, because I don't want to just be able to sit with a Christian. I want to be able to sit with somebody who doesn't walk like me, but has a spiritual practice and wants to expand and connect. I said, show me who you are beyond dogma. Show me who you are and allow me to walk in this space beyond how we hold ourselves in these boxes. And when I say my life changed after that, it changed. Like I remember like that's one of my strongest turning points in life.
That's awesome. So, just to share a little personal stuff, I've had my own, spiritual journey and dealings with religion and such. And it hasn't always been easy. But one thing that I've found, and some very wonderful teachers have imparted this wisdom on me, and it's a simple concept, but it's not always easy to see, is that, um, you know, God, if you're seeking God, God will find you where you are. It'll meet you where you're at, and so we as practitioners, or, healers, or intuitives, or whatever, trying to reach people, it sometimes, it's not something that they're necessarily going to be compatible with at this point in their walk, where it's meeting, where God is meeting them at that point, get at their awareness point. They're not, it doesn't mean that they're less close to God. It doesn't mean they're
Right.
less, they're banished, or that they're not wise, or that they're bad people, or that they're just as part of oneness and God as anybody else. But everybody's at a different point. I'm at a different point than you, and I'm at a different point than my wife, and but we're all connected. So
Yeah.
I think you clearly saw the wisdom in that. At that age, I don't know if you would have articulated it like that, but you certainly saw the wisdom and felt the pull to to be able to come out of the paradigm that you were raised in, so that you could connect with other people better, and learn more about who God was. I think that's pretty awesome, because it shows that you're not, so many people follow a particular religion or spiritual practice because it's what their community's doing. Like, for in your case, for like your family, it would be pretty normal for you to be raised in a family setting like that, where everybody goes to the same church, and that's where you're at, and you're gonna be comfortable staying in that, because that's what you know, and that's what's comfortable, and 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 that's fine too. But you
Right.
clearly were seeking more than just you know the social norms, the acceptance from your peers, and so I think that was a, a brave step to take, and clearly it shows what your intentions were too. So what did you find? I mean, was it anything specific that you first connected with, or was it more of a spiritual vibe?
Esoteric studies. I have been around a lot of Freemasons as well. So like that, just the space of being around fraternal men as well puts you in a whole nother space, if that makes sense. Just to be and see how a group of men can move in structure and order and in unity, regardless of religious creed, that's also inspiring as well.
Hmm. But was there?
So,
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
Well, I was just. Was there anything, as far as, like you're a shaman, or Buddhism, or was it any particular religious practice that drew you in, or was it more connecting, like in that case, with
Mm-hmm.
the Freemasons, that fraternity, there's a certain spirit to that you were clearly resonating with, and so that that I would say that you definitely had that experience. But was there any other particular religious sect that you resonated with, or was it more like you were taking in spirit in a kind of a nondescript way?
So it first came from a space of learning esoteric knowledge, whether Gnostic, agnostic. I was drawn to a deeper understanding. Was there a symbolism to what it is that we intake as far as spirituality and the way we look at it? Understanding the deeper meanings of the symbolism, the allegory that we would even say, the alchemical process of refining what we call as gold, and how alchemy is a study and a practice of transmutation of the soul or self, and learning those principles or building blocks of that cornerstone.
Hmm.
And so, like, the more you dip into esoteric or esoteric, like, you can get lost in the rabbit hole, don't get me wrong, but learning and understanding, you get to look at life from a different perspective. And I know we've talked on this, and I know this may sound crass to some, because I don't know specifically all the listeners or people who tune in. I was asked, even, they were like, how do you, if you don't know what devil worship is, how do you know that you're not already doing it? And it's not from a space of saying worship the devil, but it's like, if I don't know what it is that I'm practicing, where these practices came from, where Christianity came from, or how it is, what it took to get to how we experience it and practice and pray in that faith now, what is it that I'm really doing if we're not aware of it?
Okay, so you were really keen on diving in deep and getting
Hmm.
a strong foundation. So
Right.
so let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll get into we'll kind of jump into what your specialties are with those different modalities, if you're down for that.
Okay. More than down for it.
All right. See you in just a minute. I'll go for a quick break.
The Body Code is a revolutionary method of energetic healing developed by Dr. Bradley Nelson, which allows us to quickly and easily identify specific imbalances that seem to underline chronic ill health, acute and chronic pain, and discomfort, dysfunction, and stress. Ellie energetically connects with the subconscious of the client. Psychic medium Ellie Weisensell is a medical intuitive and energy healer, and a certified body code practitioner. She identifies and clears energetic imbalances within the body and energy field. Contact Ellie at the website below, and Ellie can work remotely from a distance, by phone, online, video chat. There's no need to travel to an office. Remember, the Body Code is safe for humans and animals. Contact Ellie today.
Welcome back to the Tyson's Gift podcast on WLTK-DB Top Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Wainwright, with my guest today, Mike Sweet Shiva Jones. So let's get back to the topic. First off, mind and body healing. Is there any particular modality that you use with that?
Not necessarily. Some people would say getting into NPL, or neuro-linguistic programming, really taking the time to usher a person into their experience and how they speak, because somebody can say, hey, I see what you're saying, or some people say, I hear what you're saying. Also learning how a person receives and expresses their words, and using that to help them navigate and create and connect spaces, let alone with how powerful our words are and how we speak about our experience. As simple as saying, my anxiety. No, 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 you are experiencing anxiety. Saying my anxiety commits it to your body, which is not a space that you want to hold yourself in. But some of us choose to hold ourselves in because we don't know any different. So when we create different, we change our life. So when it comes to mind body healing, I was trained under a coach. His name is Ralph, Ralph Fitness. Beautiful coach. He was one of my first coaches, and he would break down the spaces of listening and understanding how people move in their day-to-day life and helping them break their own limiting beliefs. And a lot of what's in front of us is our internal dialogue that are tied to limiting beliefs that we stop ourselves or create our own speed blocks as far as living and expanding our lives for what it is that we want. So a lot of people may think that our ailments are all physical, but some of them are mental and spiritual. See, there's nothing that the mental and spiritual body can't hide. And one of my modalities is massage therapy, and I always explain to people the tension that we hold in our body, or say like your neck's always aching or your hips are always tight. That's a manifestation. That's a manifestation of how we store energy or emotion, energy in motion, or that's not in motion, which creates stagnancy, which is dis-ease. Um, Stored in the body. Just like our heart is a muscle. So imagine, when somebody says, "Oh, you took my breath away." Imagine how your heart responds when you're scared and how that energy is stored in the heart as well as any other muscle. So like there's even, I believe, breakdowns of what certain organs and how ailments relate to emotional disease, or how anger is stored, sadness, grief, or even how you may have problems with your feet. One example, even I know some people who have problems with like feet issues, they feel like they're not on the right path or trusting and walking their path. The correlation to how it manifests in the physical body when we don't tend to it or we ignore it or we don't even know how to tend to it.
And what you're talking about, the way is the way I was taught, the same concept is the chakras. Each chakra carries a certain organ. There are different aspects of our existence. Like in the case of the feet, the root chakra, your sense of security, where you're going, what path you're on, like you said, that's all part of that root chakra. So yeah, it's going to manifest in a particular foot, depending on where the imbalance is too. So
Yes.
So do you now when you do the mind body work, is it done energetically?
It can be done energetically. For me, like I said, I'm very hyper intuitive. So somebody can talk and I can feel the block in their body, whether I choose to speak on that in that moment. Because sometimes bringing attention to a space can create frustration for a client. So it's all about how you bring them to that space, as well as create a space of safety for them to even express and let go of what it is that they may or may not be aware of. So it doesn't need to be done with energetic work. We can talk about those spaces or bring attention to how a person may even speak or have understanding of themselves outside of how they experience themselves. Now, once bringing attention to that space, I can tap into their energy and kind of show them that space, move that energy, um, tap into the emotion or the memories that are in that space, and we can go from there. But like I said, every client for me is different, and I may have certain tools and exercises that I use, but I show up for every client specifically in the way that they need and create that container for what it is. So I may ask them to do a guided meditation. I may ask them if I can tap into their energy to move that energy. Um, and here's the thing: when people are in my space, I also it's a natural way for them to also transmute energy, whether they're aware of it or not. So some people, they just needed a space to talk and express. So when they talk and express after our session, they're like, Mike, oh my gosh, the pain I had right here is completely gone. I used to hold
Mhm.
this. So it's like just holding that space and setting the intention for a healing, nurturing, nourishing space goes such a long way. Like you as a practitioner know that as well. Just the intention of saying, I open this space to be healing for the highest and greatest good for you as well as I, and that does so much because that invites that divine creator energy and those healing energies to be present in that space for more things to occur, whether known or unknown, or seen or unseen.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Oh, now, real quick, is kind of a sidebar here. So when you discuss these types of concepts, and ways to heal and such with your family, how do they respond?
Man,
I mean, you don't
um,
have to get specific, just general.
my family, some of them are, man, they don't really, they take to it, but they're kind of on the outside looking in. So some of the time, like my mother now is like, she picks my brain on mediumship.
Hmm.
And so in an ancestral veneration, she picks my brain on that. So it's like they kind of like probe and then they kind of see because it's like they're like, well, this is not his experience with his clients and how he's progressing in this space is not just happening for no reason. So like I guess he's not just making this stuff up. So they kind of pick and probe and kind of like watch from afar and it's just kind of like, oh,
Have
okay.
any of them
Hmm.
partaken of your services?
Um, let's see. Just earlier, well, just towards the end of this year when I got out the military, my father experienced. I got to massage my father for the first time. Let me not even say that. The first time I even massaged him was when he was in the hospital. He had almost had a bleed on the brain in regard to blood vessels and almost an aneurysm, and he was in the hospital. And I got to work on him the first time, and that was a whole nother experience because he was even shocked because he
No.
was in pain. Like his muscles were tight in so many different ways, and he like the nurses weren't able to help him. But I was like, Dad, hey, can I massage you? Kind of work with your energy and go into that space. And he was like, all right. So I worked on his back. Like my stepmother's right there, my older sister's right there. And after that, he just kind of looked at me and said, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't just standard type of massage. It was a massage with spiritual energy mixed in.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So he got to, and that is kind of the mission of all healers, right? It's not just to heal somebody's ailments and to help them in that regard, although that is a big part of it. It's also to expose them to the power of spirit and the reality of the connection that we have to it, right? I mean, that's
yes.
that's how I feel about it. Expose them to that eternal nature that we have. Courtney, she made some good comments. I want to share them with you. When you were talking about when you were saying, I my anxiety versus I have some anxiety. Just how you use your words, the meaning that
Hmm.
that it creates. She uses those same references with autism. So yeah, so she relates
Yes.
greatly to that. And then she was making fun of us when I said just a general answer. You don't have to get specific, but you got specific, so that was cool. Um, okay, so tantric practices. What exactly is that?
The evolution of the soul. When some people hear tantric, they just automatically think sex. But the evolution of the soul is part of the sexual energy or utilizing sexual energy to harness specific spaces. But like I said, tantra is not specifically about sex. It's about the cultivation and the evolution of the being itself. So it's all about connectedness as well as the cultivation and moving of the energy through the body.
Hmm.
So to even describe tantra is to be in a state of expansion, but at the same time being inward to even experience it. So it's like the microcosm, like I say, so without, as so within. And I know that's when you get into a lot of the Hinduistic practices and the principles of Shakti and Shiva. Hence, one of the reasons why I say sweet Shiva. Shiva is the male expression of all things divine, the universe, and Shakti is the so Shiva would be the container. Shakti would be the movement that expands in that container, testing and pushing on those spaces. So if you had a specific type where Shiva would be the container, Shakti would be the water that moves inside of it. And you hold that container and it moves in so many different ways. So the divine feminine, Shakti, the divine masculine, are always working and dancing and pushing and pulling on each other in many different spaces.
Okay. And so, and when you're practicing this modality on a client,
Mm.
how is that done?
Okay, okay. When I
I mean, you don't have to get too
express it to
specific. Just a general answer.
okay, okay, okay. Because it gets when I say I think about it because when it gets intricate, if I just go and speak about a space of how I see energy, the
Yeah.
receptivity of how somebody else would understand that. Um,
I'm sure you could go off on an entire show just on that one subject. So just
yes,
to, just
just
to,
speak
just to kind
about
of
that.
just a little general overview, maybe.
So from a tantric approach is about bringing them back into their body, male or female, bringing them back into their body to connect once again, mind body to connect with the space, whether that's releasing sexual trauma, childbirth, connecting deeper with your sexual energy, or releasing blocks and spaces that allow energy to flow. I'm going to bring attention to their body and we're going to work to create that space. It may be as simple as me energetically putting them in a bubble to feel friction in space. It may be them laying on the table and me finding the block, and then when I find that block, I can move it energetically or I can move it physically. So I may spend time massaging a specific space and asking them, excuse me, to bring attention to that space. And I've seen like my clients like cry on the table. I've seen them
Mm.
just light up. Sometimes you even have a big laughter attack, if you wish to even call it, when the energy moves and frees from that space. But I'm going to bring them to their body. But in regard to any session with me, I'm going to ask them, what is it that you wish to work on? What is it that you're having issues with? Or where are you at in your life? And from there, like how intuitive I am, I start to pick up on and hear things, whether it be like mediumship or channeling or reading their energetic body and where their energy is stuck or what their body even tells me. Because like I'm saying, there's nothing that can't be hit that's not hidden in regard to the body and the mind and the spirit and how they all intertwine. So I listen to the body and I listen to what it tells me and then I create a space from there. So like I said, I may create an exercise right there in that moment specifically for them in that space, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sounds powerful. Um, spiritual divination.
Spiritual divination, whether it comes to sorry.
What I was just saying, what's that all about anyway?
Spiritual divination. Imagine, think of it as tools. You have your tools to build a house. You have your tools when you work on toilets. You have your tools when you were calibrating certain things on a computer. You have your multimeter that reads ohms and voltage. Spiritual divination is another word for a spiritual tool to interpret a space or what's going on in a person's life, whether that be tarot and reading the subconscious spaces of a person and what they're going through and what's going on in their life, their house, their relationships, whether it's casting Ori shells, like that's a Ifa or Santeria practice, and they have two cowrie shells, or it's a binary system. So you could even cast shells with pennies because the faces of heads and tails, they tell stories. So like binary encoding, like 1011, there's a binary way of even reading when you catch the shells, and they're able to read the shells to even give you the message. That's not something I'm familiar with, but I'm saying in describing the tool. Some people even do tea leaf readings, and looking at how the tea and the leaves dry up and being able to do that. Or doing a palm reading in regards to how the lines are in your palm and what they correlate to your life, and how that speaks of who you are and what pertains to you. Astrology is also a divination tool. Some may not believe that, and that's okay. But it's like understanding attributes and aspects of a person is a tool for understanding what they may have in front of them from them growing beyond that spiritual block or whatever it is for them getting to that next space.
So,
There's so many.
so to simplify, I mean, like for an idiot like me, it's basically it's like it's a tool where it's an actual physical manifestation that you can read, where it's tangible, it's in your hand, it's something along those lines, as opposed
Yes,
to claircognizance or clairsentience or something along those lines.
yes.
Okay, yeah, that's and what's your favorite, tarot?
I love tarot. What I say is my favorite. Because I love to be on the other side of the table and experience different readings. But I guess I would say tarot and oracle cards. It can be simple, it can be intricate, it can be as deep as you want to go.
Okay, so
But I
that
guess
so when
I'd
you're
say
doing
tarot.
readings, that's usually your go-to.
It's not my go-to. I prefer cold readings without using any cards. I prefer to connect with you, and the mediumship or the channeling come in. So it's like for me to even begin and you hold your hands out and I hold your hands, I'm instantly able to connect into your energy and see what's going on. And even though that person doesn't have to be in front of me, I can still connect to their energy as long as I have their consent to be able to pick up on and download the energy of what's going on in their space.
So when you say mediumship, is it like a quote unquote psychic or intuitive, whatever? Uh, they're that's what they're doing. They're channeling messages, and they're reading, right. They're reading what's going on in your space, as you put it. What about in terms of like actually having like someone's loved ones come through and be able to identify, say it's their mother or their father or something along those lines? Is that something you do as well?
Yes, sometimes it depends because everybody's gift is different. For me, sometimes I'm able to physically see the person. Sometimes it's like you can feel the difference between motherly or fatherly energy, and sometimes it's not even a love like a family member. It's a friend that may have come in that passed. So it's like you feel the correlation of how you experience relationships in your life. So it's like this feels like, imagine feeling like how you have a conversation with your grandmother. It's that feeling, but connected to that person.
Okay.
And then sometimes you may get a visual in through your third eye's mind of how that person shows up. I remember like I had a client and I was like, yeah, they keep showing me this TV and both of you sitting in front of it. And then here's the thing about mediumship, like how you know them is may not be how they show up on the other side. They may show up in their prime of their life of them being 24, 34. So how you're describing the person, it's like, oh, they had curly hair that was brown, da, 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 but you see your grandmother in her white hair.
Right,
So,
right.
but I'm describing her in her prime, and they're like, yeah, but we used to sit at the table and watch on the tube and turn the dial, the older
Yeah,
television,
yeah.
and we used to watch shows together. And they're like, oh yes, that is. And then sometimes for me as a physical medium, I can tell them, I'm like, feel this space on your body. That's how they communicate with you. Like sometimes it may feel like a blanket or a hand on a specific side or a place in their body. That's them connecting with you. And that's like, pay attention to that feeling from here on out of how
Yeah.
they connect to you.
My mom passed away in December, and she's come to me a bunch of times, and I feel her on my left shoulder.
Mhm.
And when I'm, especially when I'm meditating, that's usually when it is when I'm really still. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, so I yeah, and what I found is that what you're talking about with them, coming through in a different point in their life than what they passed over in. Usually,
Mhm.
at least in my own readings that I've had, where my family members come through, they're almost always in their prime, or at a point, not necessarily in their 20s or 30s, but at a point like say in their 40s when they were really happy, at a point
Yes.
in their life when things were really good. It very rarely do they ever come through as they were when they passed. I know my mom,
Right.
she sure as shit didn't,
Mhm.
because she was in very poor health at the end, and so
Mhm.
so she's come through in more in her 30s. So, um, so this see here, are you hearing me on this? This guy's a jack of all trades, jack of all esoteric trades here. Um, Shamanism, we know what that is. Is that something you do a lot of?
Very much so. I am big on utilizing what, like, my drum is my favorite modality when it comes to shamanism and using the vibration of how you can bring in energy with the
Mm,
drum, or even just let alone drum and pray. How powerful that is to just sit and drum and pray, or to ask for receiving wind drumming. Like how powerful that is. Whether you're using it for modality or using it to heal, like it's the drum
yeah.
has been used in many different practices and many different cultures for a very long time. But sorry, go ahead.
So, oh no, well, I was just yeah. I want to. So, when I first studied Reiki, my first Reiki teacher was a shaman, and I saw the drumming and stuff, and I was like, oh, I guess that does put them into a weird trance, the sounds or whatever, and I it
Mhm.
was all just kind of woo woo to me. It wasn't. I didn't really get it. Um, I had a heck of a time having any kind of traveling or anything in the beginning when I would meditate.
Mhm.
It's still not my forte. Um, but what if you think of it, I'm just talking about for people that maybe don't
Yes.
know anything about this. One of the modalities that I learned early on at Delphi was color and sound, which is voice toning. So you've got the vibration
Mhm.
of the note and the voice, and tuning forks. So it's creating specific sounds, specific notes that has specific frequencies that vibrate at the same rate as your chakras do. And those chakras are connected to specific parts of your body, specific organs. So what Mike's talking about with that drumming is that vibrations are being created that are literally impacting the chakras and the organs, because they're synchronized energetically, frequency wise, with those chakras and organs. So it's scientific. I mean, it's not just some
Very much.
blah, 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 I mean,
Right.
it's
Right. Seeing
it
people run
actually
and just
it
drum. Yeah.
actually is having a scientific, a physical effect on the body. So
Yes.
which is pretty cool, and especially if you like drumming. I mean, that kind of, it's where you can get into it and enjoy and have that visceral experience, but also have that impact.
Yes. And like I know for laymen in regard to shamanism is like a person who is a spirit walker who can go and be in this plane, but is also in multiple planes at once to be able to help you connect back to your full experience. Sometimes we go through a traumatic experience and we disconnect from a part of us. And so imagine you have this part of you that disconnected and ran off to a space of coveting and protection that you don't even know that you're missing. But the shaman literally goes to that space to retrieve it and bring it back to you. Or the shaman also removes stagnant or stored energy that's been in your body for a very long time in many different ways, whether that be a egg wash, using something physical to grab the energy to hold and possess it, or using, the branches or the many different leaves or physical plants that they use to brush the energy off or connect and move the energy up in many different ways. Whether it's hands on or hands off, the shaman is able to move between realms and move between energetic bodies to remove this, to remove that, a lot of us, we refer to it as hucha, or like you see it as a dagger or a knife or a spear. So imagine seeing somebody's energetic light body, like a physical human form that's a light, and you see a knife or a spear in it in a specific space. And you can literally like remove that energetic knife from their body. And often, a lot of the time, when you remove it, the person is even able to physically feel how it comes out and how in their physical body. So that's just an example.
Because it manifests, for example, if it's in their etheric. And when Mike's for people like, some of my friends that might be tuning in, they don't know about any of this stuff, probably a lot of them. So you've got, he's talking about with the energetic body, he's talking about the subtle bodies, the etheric body, which is a double of what our physical body is, the emotional body, the mental body, the spiritual body. These are all different subtle bodies that are attached spiritually to us. So what he's talking about is somebody that's able to see those subtle bodies and go in and heal with the use of shamanism. And of course, they're doing it for the highest good, and they're bringing in the light in the process. For a lot of people, I think this might sound like voodoo, for people that are kind of lumping everything into one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it might sound, whoa, that sounds out there. Like that sounds like something scary. And the reality is it's not, because the shaman, you, for example, you're doing it for the highest good. You're trying to bring in God's light, and heal the person. So, okay.
Even though voodoo does get a bad rap, it's just about understanding and learning a different modality, because even though the way it's perceived in the West has been demonized, a lot of African veneration or ancestral veneration was demonized in how Christianity or the big three religions had perceived reality of staying within the church or creating a structure outside of the church.
Yeah. And it's all about perception, and things can be manipulated, as we see every day, right? Okay, so now I got to get to the question of the night. Practitioner of magic, do tell.
Oh man, one could describe or define magic as the reprogramming of the subconscious, or the manipulation of energy with a specific focus and intention. There's so many different ways to practice.
So it sounds like, what you just described, it sounds like it's not magic as in some guy with a pointy hat with crescents on him, in the corner by a fire, doing some weird alchemical stuff. And no, you're talking about another energetic modality to assist the person.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So very cool stuff, Mike. You've got all these different tools in your belt, and you're able to tune into all of them and see it all. It's remarkable. It's obvious. Mike is obviously a very talented healer and intuitive, and he's got a lot at his disposal. So you should think about using. I got to ask you for a plug though. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did a Kundalini light energization on you. Right?
Yes.
And how did you? Guys, I'm asking because Mike had a really profound experience, so I asked him to share it. I don't usually get into my stuff too much, but you're somebody that's experienced it, so go ahead.
Yes, my experience with you and receiving energetic session. It was amazing. I know I was having a rough day, a rough start. I just got out of a relationship, was looking for guidance and even clarity within my own experience. I was able to vividly feel the energy move in dense, a very dense experience. One way to be able to describe like energy moving, imagine your body being a river or a channel and feeling water run through all parts of your body, up and out and through your head. That's one of the ways I would even describe feeling energy. Some people feel it as a buzzing, some people feel it as a cool air running over their skin and their body, but I was able to feel the energy move very vividly through my body, which allowed me to relax and let go of a lot of my frustrations around that relationship that day. I remember like even opened up my heart space for me to even be able to take a deeper breath and relax in my body. Because that's with a lot of energetic work, it releases and relaxes muscles,
That was right in the very
connecting with those
beginning of.
energetic spaces.
Wasn't that in the very beginning of the session?
I believe so. I believe so.
Yeah,
I felt my heart open up, and I was like, "Cool, okay, all right."
because I remember when I first started the session, I started to cry. Like I felt this, and
Mm,
that when I was as I was pulling the energy, and that was, I think that's what it was. Is it was a release of tension, and yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. And that's that's what the Kundalini light energization is. It's pulling the energy through the chakras all the way from the root all the way up through the crown and out. And I mean that you can, that is kind of how I picture it. I picture a stream of light energy just coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up. So
mm,
it's an apt description. So
mm.
so thanks. I appreciate you sharing that.
Did I plug you well enough, my brother?
Oh, you did, my brother. Say, yeah, that particular modality is one of my personal favorites because it's it's really about getting into that space of love that you have for this fellow soul, for this fellow human, and doing everything you can to help them get into a better space. That's so it's pretty cool. It's it was a pleasure to work on you. That was actually when we first met too. So that was a good way
Yes,
to break the ice. Um,
it was.
so you, um, I want to, before we move, we're kind of getting at the end here and time wise, but I want to give you an opportunity to share your, I know you don't have a website, but you said again, you had your Instagram and your TikTok accounts, right? You want to share those?
Mhm, mhm. So, High Council Healing, which is high underscore council underscore healing, which is on Instagram. And then I have Young Sweet Shiva, which is all one word together, which is TikTok. Those are the platforms that I use and utilize as far as my presence and what I'm on. And that's where you can easily reach me. I respond personally, and that's where I'm at in my space in my practice. I'd rather make sure I'm responding personally and
Hmm.
it's upfront and personal with you meeting me off rip.
Mike just put it. Mike, our producer, just put the high underscore council underscore healing for Instagram, and Young Sweet Shiva next to it there at the bottom of the screen. And Young Sweet Shiva is TikTok. So
Mm,
you should check him out, man. He's the real deal, and he's a good guy. I can account for that. The two of us have practiced at Stone Soup in Fort Walton, Florida. Uh, and he's there a lot more than me. I'm 2.5 hours away. I only get to go there once a month or something like that. But he's there, and he's the real deal, and he'll take good care of you. So something to consider. So what do you think, Mike? Should I do what we were talking about?
open it up. Let's do it. It's your
So
space. Let's have it.
I oh, thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie Cangiano. I'm probably just butchering your name. Stephanie Cangiano said, "Good show tonight." So she's following your Instagram now. So that's cool.
Okay, cool,
So,
cool, cool.
yeah. So I've been debating what to do about my potty humor of the week, and I don't always have one to share necessarily, but I've just gotten some feedback that I'm worried that I'm going to turn people off and make them think this show is a joke, and it's not. It's not trying to do the highest good, which it is trying to do. But I also am kind of a goof, and I like goofy toilet humor and stuff like that. I'm kind of a regular guy, so I have been doing it at the opening of the show. But I think what I'm going to do now, if I have a story, is share it at the end. That way, for those of you that don't like that kind of thing, you can go ahead and depart. But before I get into it, I'm going to give my websites. If you'd like to check out my offerings healing wise, Tyson'sGiftHealing.com, Tyson'sGiftHealing.com, and now I all the different modalities that I practice, I have them all lumped into one offering with one price. So I'm going to give you what you need, what's going to be best for you. We'll determine that together. And then also the book, you can actually get the book on that site too. There's a link there, but the book is Tyson'sGift.com. So Tyson'sGiftHealing.com, Tyson'sGift.com. All right, folks, if you don't want the toilet humor, beat it. No, I'm just kidding. No, but you can safely exit the building now. But if you would like to hear a funny little toilet humor story, I'm going to start that now. Mike, could you go ahead and run our intro video?
Sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's runny, sometimes it stinks, but it's always funny. It's Brando's Potty Humor of the Week.
What did you think? You like that? Does that work for you?
I like it.
Okay. So this week, this is a story that it's from my college days, and I had a friend in college. He was a good guy and everything, but this is back in the mid '90s, and he was really into eating overly healthy, like too much fiber, too much spinach, too much broccoli. He just ate, all the time, and raw. He would go to the dining hall and he would just shovel it in. And the result was flagellance galore. Okay. So being his buddy, it was kind of hard because, he couldn't get away from it. As I'm introducing this, there's all these different stories about him that are running through my head. I had one particular one that I wanted to tell. So, okay. So we're going to call it the Pedro Files. Okay. I just made that up too. These are the Pedro Files. And the first Pedro file we're going to go with is the Film Lab Pedro file. Okay. So here's how it went down. I made this film my junior year on Super 8. This is reel to reel. It was before video was around, but when we were actually making movies on film, this kind of dates me back when I was a senior in college. I actually shot my senior film project on 16 millimeter and had to slice the film. Much more labor intensive than it is today. And there was nonlinear editing was not a thing yet. So it was not easy. A lot of work. But we went up there to transfer the Super 8 film to VHS. So my friend Pedro, he actually starred in this film for me, and my girlfriend at the time and the three of us go up to the film lab, and we're talking a little room with a little projector that shoots into a mirror, two mirrors that then project it towards that reflect the image towards a camera. And that's how it was transferred. It was this little contraption. So we're in this room and I don't think I need to tell you what happened. Okay. It happened. All right. And we're in this room. And it was so disgusting. It was so gross. And it happened so much, you would just do it and not say anything, no comment or anything like that.
At least let somebody know.
Okay. But my girlfriend, we were around him a lot, so she knew. She knew what was up and everything. This is the punchline right here. Okay, so he does it. I'm like, oh God, get me out of here quick. And she's standing next to me, and I hear this. This is her. She says, oh. Oh. So and we got out of there pretty quick. But yeah, it's pretty good. It was pretty good. So on that note, Mike, I give you a fist pump on the screen. I really appreciate you being here and sharing yourself with us. At some point, maybe we could have you on again. And we'll talk about maybe some specific experiences that you've had as a healer. We can talk about that kind of thing if you want. Stanley says that was definitely toilet humor, but he enjoyed it. Stephanie says it sounds like you had to be there. What, you couldn't smell it through my story that I just shared? You couldn't just kind of smell it through the vibes of the energy? Well, okay, hey, I warned y'all. You didn't have to stay for the story. All right. Anyway, on that note, I want to thank the audience from the bottom of my heart for being here. You've been supporting me, and we got our regulars, Courtney, Stephanie. I really appreciate you checking us out tonight. Stanley's he's connected with me on Facebook. He's read my book. Really appreciate all your support. And there's one that I named off earlier in the show, Derek and Jackie Fryer. Thank you for coming and checking us out. I hope you enjoyed it. And Mike, my brother, thanks for being here and helping us.
Appreciate you for having me.
Get the word out, that about the reality that these things are real and they're powerful and they're good.
Very much.
They come from the light, and they're here there's a reason why we're all trying to do this, and we're trying to make a positive difference in the world. And the more we talk about it, the more people are going to realize this is a thing. We're not making this stuff up. Right. Why would someone like you with your background go this route if it was just make believe?
Right.
So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the week. Next week, just as just to let you know, we're going to have Nicole Strickland on the show next week talking about her new book, which is going to be nice. Nicole's a fellow host on the station, and she's awesome. So we'll have her on next Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. So I hope you're here for that. And with that note, have a good night, have a good weekend, have a good week, and thanks again, my brother. We'll see you next time.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.